Picture yourself walking across North America about 20,000 years ago. Mammoths are grazing in the distance, giant ground sloths are lumbering through the trees. Dire wolves are arguing over a carcass. Then something steps out onto the open plain that makes every other predator suddenly look a little less confident. No roar, no dramatic slow-motion entrance. Just the largest cat known to have ever existed, quietly deciding whether you're worth its time. Welcome to the world of the American lion, Panthera atrox. When people hear largest lion ever, most imagine a slightly oversized version of the African lion lounging under a tree. Not even close. The American lion was in an entirely different league. Adult males may have weighed well over 400 kilograms, with some estimates pushing even higher. Standing at the shoulder, it was taller than today's lions, and from nose to tail, it stretched farther than almost any living cat. If you parked one beside an African lion, the modern lion would suddenly look like he'd skipped leg day. Oddly enough, scientists aren't even completely sure it looked like what we'd call a lion. The name American lion is convenient, but it can also be misleading. This wasn't simply an African lion that wandered into North America after taking a very wrong turn. It belonged to the genus Panthera, the same group that includes lions, tigers, jaguars, and leopards. But it evolved into its own remarkable species during the Pleistocene. Its closest relatives were probably the Eurasian cave lions that prowled across Europe and Asia, not the lions currently living on the African savanna. Its scientific name, Panthera atrox, sounds intimidating for good reason. Atrox translates roughly to fierce or cruel, which is about as subtle as naming a shark Mr. Bites a Lot. While scientists don't usually choose names for dramatic effect, this one certainly aged well. The American lion lived during the late Pleistocene, roughly between 340,000 and 11,000 years ago. That was a time when enormous mammals were everywhere. Ice sheets covered huge portions of the northern continent, but North America wasn't one giant frozen wasteland. Far from it. Depending on where you stood, you could find grasslands stretching to the horizon, open woodlands, forests, river valleys, and even surprisingly mild regions supporting an incredible diversity of wildlife. This enormous predator occupied an equally enormous range. Fossils have been uncovered from Alaska all the way south to Mexico. Its remains have appeared across much of the United States and Canada, making it one of the most widespread large predators of Ice Age North America. Wherever there were healthy populations of giant herbivores, there was a good chance Panthera atrox wasn't very far away. Of course, scientists didn't discover all this because someone stumbled across a perfectly preserved lion taking a nap. Like nearly everything we know about extinct animals, the story comes from bones, lots of them. Fossils recovered from caves, river deposits, ancient sinkholes, and especially the famous La Brea tar pits in California, have helped researchers piece together what this predator looked like and where it lived. At first glance, many of these fossils resembled those of modern lions. But as more specimens were uncovered, differences became impossible to ignore. The skull was larger, the limbs were proportionally longer. The overall skeleton suggested an animal built differently from today's lions. Careful anatomical studies eventually confirmed that these remains belonged to a separate species, unlike any cat alive today. Modern technology has only strengthened that conclusion. Ancient DNA studies and detailed comparisons of fossil anatomy suggest that the American lion split from its Eurasian relatives hundreds of thousands of years ago after populations crossed the Bering Land Bridge into North America. Once isolated, evolution took over. Generation after generation, these cats adapted to a continent filled with gigantic prey, eventually becoming the largest members of the cat family ever known. That's quite an achievement when your competition includes Siberian tigers, cave lions, jaguars, and every other oversized feline evolution has experimented with over the last few million years. The cat family has produced some truly impressive predators, but Panthera atrox still sits at the very top of the size chart. And here's the funny part. Despite being the biggest cat to ever walk the earth, It remained almost completely unknown to the average person. Ask someone to name an Ice Age predator, and they'll probably say saber-toothed tiger, which, by the way, wasn't actually a tiger. The American lion quietly gets overlooked, despite being larger, longer-legged, and every bit as fascinating. For hundreds of thousands of years, this giant predator ruled much of North America. But size alone doesn't explain how it became one of the continent's most successful hunters. To understand that, you have to take a closer look at the animal itself, because nearly every bone in its body was built for a world where dinner could weigh as much as a small truck. Being the largest cat to ever exist sounds like life should have been pretty straightforward. Wake up, roar a little, pick the biggest animal around, and collect dinner. The Ice Age had other plans. For the American lion, every hunt was a calculation. Every chase burned precious energy. Every mistake could end with broken bones, crushed ribs, or a pair of mammoth tusks introducing themselves at very high speed. Being an apex predator didn't mean life was easy. It meant failure was expensive. Picture an early morning on the North American plains around 18,000 years ago. The air is cool, and patches of frost still cling to the grass. Herds of ancient horses are already grazing, while massive steppe bison move slowly across the landscape, tearing up vegetation with heads that seem better suited for bulldozing than eating. In the distance, a group of Colombian mammoths marches steadily toward a watering hole, calves protected in the center of the herd. Somewhere nearby, an American lion is watching. Unlike modern African lions, which often rely on dense vegetation for ambushes, Panthera atrox frequently hunted in environments with far fewer hiding places. Open grasslands don't offer many convenient bushes to crouch behind. Instead, this predator likely used shallow depressions, scattered shrubs, rolling hills, and changes in terrain to stay out of sight until it was close enough to strike. Scientists can't observe an American lion hunting, of course. The species disappeared thousands of years ago. But paleontologists combine fossil anatomy, living cat behavior, prey distributions, and environmental evidence to reconstruct the most likely hunting strategies. Like detectives investigating an ancient crime scene, they piece together clues from bones, tooth marks, footprints, and the ecosystems these animals once inhabited. Its menu was impressive. Ancient horses were probably among its more common targets. North America was once home to several species of wild horses before they disappeared near the end of the Ice Age. These animals lived in herds, just as modern zebras do today, meaning a predator had to isolate one individual from the group. That's much easier said than done when every horse has 4 powerful legs specifically designed for running away from things that want to eat it. Then there were the bison. Not today's American bison, but larger prehistoric species that could weigh well over a metric ton. Imagine trying to wrestle an animal that's basically a living armored truck with horns. Even healthy adults were dangerous, and one well-placed charge could seriously injure or kill a predator. Modern lions already receive broken jaws, fractured ribs, and puncture wounds while hunting African buffalo. The Ice Age version of that challenge was even bigger. Young mammoths were another possible target. Before anyone imagines a single lion sprinting toward a full-grown mammoth the size of a house, that's almost certainly not what happened. Adult mammoths were enormous, experienced, and heavily defended by the rest of the herd. Their tusks alone could send a predator flying. Calves, however, represented a different story. If a young mammoth became separated from its family, it suddenly became vulnerable. Even then, attacking one was still incredibly risky, because mammoth herds were highly protective. Any predator attempting to grab a calf risked facing several angry adults weighing 6 to 10 tons each. That's less of a hunt and more of a very poor life decision. The American lion likely also preyed on camels, elk, musk oxen, and occasionally giant ground sloths, depending on what was available in different regions. Yes, camels once lived in North America. They actually evolved there before eventually spreading into Asia and South America. Evolution has a strange sense of humor. One of the biggest mysteries surrounding Panthera atrox is whether it hunted alone or in groups. Modern African lions are famously social. They form prides, cooperate during hunts, and defend territories together. Tigers, by contrast, are almost entirely solitary. So, where does the American lion fit? The answer is frustratingly inconclusive. Some scientists argue that its enormous size may have allowed it to hunt independently. A cat weighing over 400 kilograms already has a tremendous advantage against most prey. Hunting alone also means keeping every meal instead of sharing it with several hungry relatives. Others suggest that cooperative hunting would have made sense when targeting giant herbivores like bison or young mammoths. Working together increases the chances of bringing down large prey, while reducing the risk faced by each individual predator. Unfortunately, fossils don't preserve social behavior very well. A pile of bones rarely comes with a helpful note saying, "We hunted in groups every Tuesday." The evidence simply isn't strong enough to settle the debate. What we do know is that every successful hunt demanded patience. Big cats don't sprint endlessly after prey because sprinting is incredibly expensive. Even modern lions usually chase for less than a minute before giving up. Their bodies are designed for explosive bursts of speed, not endurance running. The American lion, despite its longer legs, likely followed a similar principle. It needed to get close before committing to an attack. Once it launched, everything happened fast. Powerful hind legs drove the initial leap. Massive forelimbs wrapped around the prey to control its movement. Sharp claws dug in for grip, while the jaws searched for the throat or muzzle. If everything went according to plan, the prey gradually suffocated under the lion's weight and strength. If it didn't, well, imagine trying to hold on to a terrified one-ton bison that's bucking, kicking, twisting, and charging in every direction. Suddenly being the largest cat alive doesn't seem quite as comfortable. Fossil evidence from many Ice Age predators reveals healed fractures, damaged joints, broken teeth, and puncture wounds. These animals survived serious injuries that almost certainly came from dangerous encounters with prey or rival predators. Every scar tells the same story. Hunting giant mammals was never routine. And sometimes the hunter didn't even get to enjoy the reward. A fresh carcass was essentially an invitation for every carnivore within smelling distance. Direwolves, saber-toothed cats, giant short-faced bears, and even other American lions may have arrived within hours or minutes. Catching dinner was only half the battle. Keeping it was an entirely different challenge. In the Ice Age, there were no peaceful meals. Every successful hunt had the potential to become the opening round of a fight with another predator that had absolutely no intention of leaving hungry. The American lion, Panthera atrox, wasn't just another oversized version of the lions we see today. It was the largest cat known to have ever lived, a predator perfectly adapted to a North America filled with mammoths, giant bison, prehistoric horses, and fierce rivals like direwolves, saber-toothed cats, and short-faced bears. Every fossil discovered helps us piece together the life of an animal that ruled an entire continent before disappearing forever at the end of the Ice Age. What's perhaps most fascinating is that, despite its incredible size and strength, the American lion wasn't invincible. It still had to outsmart dangerous prey, compete with other apex predators, and eventually face a rapidly changing world that even the greatest hunter couldn't survive. It's a powerful reminder that in nature, survival isn't just about being the biggest or the strongest, it's about adapting. Now, we'd love to hear from you. If humans had never arrived in North America and the Ice Age megafauna had survived, do you think the American lion would still be roaming the continent today? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into prehistoric North America, please give this video a like, share it with someone who loves ancient animals, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us keep bringing incredible fossil discoveries, extinct predators, and the strangest stories from Earth's past to life. Every subscription makes a real difference, and we'd love to have you join our growing community of prehistoric explorers. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep exploring the past, and remember, sometimes the greatest predators in Earth's history are the ones most people have never even heard of.